Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel. In today's video we're taking you on the first drive for you guys in the E39. Now I've actually put nearly 4,000 miles on this car in 2 months since I've owned it, but it's the first time I've taken you guys along for the ride, so we'll get going and talk a little bit about what this car is like to drive. Because it's being sort of a modern classic, it's quite different. I'll get the wipers sorted out. It's a little different to sort of your everyday modern car. You've got to drive it in a certain way, and it's, you know, it's 21 years old now, this car, so you've got to treat it with a little bit of respect. Now, the keen-eyed among you may notice that this steering wheel isn't a standard E39 steering wheel, and that's because it's been swapped for a E46 M Sport steering wheel. Slightly smaller, just gives the car a bit more of a edgier turn in, I suppose. Also just makes it a little bit easier to handle in terms of the size of the steering wheel, so I quite like it. Previous owner did it. He said, I can provide you with the old steering wheel if you like, but I've got to find it. And I said, you know what, this one's fine. All the buttons and everything work on it, cruise control, etc. We've also got controls for the radio on it. They all work, which is quite cool. But yeah, we've done a lot of miles in this car already, and that's a testament to how sort of lovely it is to drive. Compared to my previous car, the Volvo S80, the driving dynamics of this car are quite amazingly different, and I think part of that is to do with the fact that the Volvo is a more modern car, so you lose a bit of that. The steering on this car is gorgeous, lovely weight, and just everything about it has much more heft and clunk. It's got the lovely diesel straight six. This is the M57 engine on 525D. It's actually got a shortened stroke to make it 2.5 litre. What that means is that it loves to rev, and obviously we won't do it while it's cold this morning, but later on in the journey I'll show you what this thing's like. It does a lovely sound, beautiful linear power delivery as well. Once it comes on boost, it just accelerates at the same rate, which is rather nice. We've got the 5-speed GM gearbox, which I've driven in a bit of both. I like to drive it in manual mode as well, because I find I actually get far better fuel economy driving it in manual mode. If we just go onto the onboard computer here, we can see average consumption 35.7 mpg, which I don't think is too bad for a 20-year-old big estate car like this. They're not light cars, they're built like tanks. Everything clicks and crunches and is built like it should be, so yeah, it's just a very, very nice, comfortable place to be. Now, one of my main drivers of getting a car like this is I wanted something that was sort of a daily drivable modern classic, or young timer as they call them in Europe. And this is sort of a perfect example of that. So it's in really good condition. You can probably tell that from the inside here, and I tried to keep it as nice as possible. They've also got benefit from a few bits of technology such as parking sensors, etc., that older classics don't, and they just make daily driving easier. That's not to say I wouldn't drive a car without parking sensors, because my 5-metre long Volvo didn't have parking sensors, but it's just a nice easy little feature to have. But they don't work at the moment, so I need to fix them. But the styling of this car, both inside and out, is something that's I've always been enamoured with. The E39, it's just a beautiful celebration of all the things that BMW do best. This sat-nav system, as you may have noticed, I can fit Bluetooth to, so my phone's connected. That's through the Blue Bus system, which is really, really an awesome bit of kit. I think it's £200, and you get full Bluetooth connectivity and mobile as well. So if you've got one of these or this generation BMW, then definitely check those out. But even the way the gauge are designed, they're much more sort of the classic. I think the E30's gauges are very similar as well. BMW used a very similar gauge design for a number of years until the generation after. This one, I'm just going to brace for these potholes here. They are absolutely awful. I've always wanted a dark blue car with a cream leather interior, which, as you can see, we've achieved here. And this not being an M Sport means that the ride is much more sort of compliant. It's a much nicer car to drive every day on roads as atrocious as this. The dogs as well were a big factor in this, why I had to get Touring, and this car was the right price, really. It was just sort of meant to be, and I've never really been as impulsive as I was when I bought this car. I said to Mrs. DL, right, I'm going to buy that car. We then drove 200 miles to view it, and I bought it the next day. So yeah, it's been very well looked after. It's had all BMW service history, it's had the 12 flaps removed, it's had the rear air suspension replaced recently, it's had the rear boot struts replaced by BMW, so it's had a lot of money spent on it, this car. And I'll probably do a video totting up how much this car has cost to own over its lifetime. It's had 2 owners before me. One chap had it for 3 years, and then the second chap had it for 17 years, or actually 18 years. So it's definitely a good example that I've bought, which I'm quite happy with. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Like I said, the parking sensors don't work. There's a bit of deterioration on the windscreen seal, and we need to replace the breather so that the turbo stops whining. Hopefully prolong the life of the turbo as well, because they are known to go because the breathers fail or get clogged up, so they stop breathing, which is never good, whether you're a car or a person. So yeah, what's that? LX5. So this commute I've been doing for, well, since I've had the car, and it's down sort of cross country. There's no main roads to where I work, really. You've got to go across all of the main roads via small link roads, but it's nice because it tends to be fairly quiet, as you can see. This is about as strenuous as my commute gets, which I'm very, very fortunate for that to be the case. In terms of MPG, people go on about these cars being awful, and if you drive it in a way that's going to give you awful MPG, it will give you awful MPG. I've been having fun in it, and I've averaged 35 MPG. Now, Pigeon nearly had it. I'm sure if you, well, I know if you drive carefully, you can hit 40 MPG no problem with these cars. Especially on a motorway run, these will cruise at 42, 43 MPG all day with very little effort. So that's something that I quite like about this car, it being the diesel. If I'd gone for a straight 6 petrol, which arguably would be more desirable in terms of spec, it wouldn't get that sort of MPG. When I'm doing 25,000 miles a year, I can't really sacrifice the MPG in that manner, if that makes sense. So this has been a sort of a happy medium of driving a car, a desirable sort of, in my opinion, desirable car, without having to stomach awful running costs. Now, I would love a 540i. I just think they're amazing with the V8, gorgeous. But in terms of where I am in life at the moment and my needs for this car, it needs to be a diesel. And I didn't really have a preference between 525D and 530D because, in terms of out and out pace, they're not too dissimilar. And I just found it easier to find a 525D that hadn't been crashed or messed around with. This is sort of the model that people who weren't that into cars bought, so therefore they tend to be better preserved but also less messed around with. So it's had everything it needs. It's even had the television feature upgraded to digital, So I've got full digital FreeSat in this thing. Was a Freeview, one of them, but it's just been very well looked after, and that was something that was really important to me when I was looking for one of these cars, because they can be an absolute nightmare. Touch wood, so far this one's been lovely, but it's only been 2 months and 4,000 miles, so we shall see, won't we? But yeah, I've been really happy with this car so far. In terms of the driving dynamics, although, like I said, it's not the fastest car in the world, it moves more than enough, and also it's so lovely to drive through corners, through the bends. It's so level and composed. You can really move along across countries very quickly in this car. It eats up miles, which is something I like. If we just get the sound of that from the straight six, and it pulls really nicely. It's quite happy to rev because it's the shorter stroke engine, and because it's slightly older, in terms of size, I'm finding it actually very easy to place on the road, and it fits through a lot of gaps you wouldn't really want to try in a more modern car. It's quite narrow. It's narrower than the current 3 Series, but it feels bigger inside, because obviously we've got one of those as well in the family, and it feels bigger in size inside, but actually it's slightly smaller in terms of width. I think about that much longer. So compared to the 3 Series, you've also got much more glass. The dogs prefer it to the 3 Series. I prefer it to the 3 Series as well. It's just a lovely place to be. The driving position as well, loads of adjustability. We've got memory seats on this car for both driver and passenger. This car in particular has the DSP system as well, which is the dynamic sound. So we've got subwoofers in the back. We can make it sound like a cathedral or a concert hall or a jazz club. There's quite a few nice little features on this car. Mrs. DL absolutely loves this car. She was never a real fan of the Volvo. When I bought the Volvo, I told her I was going to buy it. She said, if you buy that, I'll leave you. So I went to the auction and bought it and took it home, and she never really warmed to it. She accepted it as, I've got to travel in this thing, but she never really liked it. I mean, she's still driving it now at the moment, but she always knows about it. She never really liked that car. Whereas this car she really likes. I don't know what it is about it, because it's slower, it's not as modern, but I think she's someone that really appreciates quality over quantity, and this car has that in bucket loads, even to the point where the window sills have lovely chrome strips and things like that. It is really well put together. Nothing creaks, and apart from the back parcel shelf when you go over really big potholes. She hasn't driven it, but she says it's much nicer to be a passenger in, and I think that's because it's obviously got the rear wheel drive dynamics going on, which I think you do notice as a passenger. You're being pushed along the road rather than pulled along the road, and pushed around corners rather than pulled around corners. Even the indicator sound sounds better quality, it sounds less artificial. The stalks as well, they're solid, and it's got all the typical BMW features like parking lights, etc. One of my favourite features is this. It's the cassette tape. I don't even have cassettes, but the fact it does that is pretty cool. I need to buy a cassette lock really for this. I like the layout of the dials, the fact you've got fuel level, you've got the speed and tachometer, and then you've got the coolant temperature monitor as well, which is omitted on so many modern cars, stupidly. I don't understand why you wouldn't have the coolant temperature. Temperature tells you so much about the health of your engine, and whether you've got any problems, or whether any problems might be emerging. And the fact that modern cars don't have it is just idiotic, in my opinion. And I think that's a sign of the times, that people use these cars or use cars now as an appliance rather than something that you fettle with and keep in good order. So let's just put our foot down here, and there's 60, 40. So it's really no slouch, this car. And it's just got, yeah, like I say, it's just, everything's got a lovely weight to it. Even the suspension is nicely damped. You've got a bit of compliance. Well, you've got more than enough compliance, quite a lot of compliance, but you never really feel like you're going to roll out of a bend. It's very sort of, it's very nicely weighted, should we say, the damping of this car. The steering as well is lovely and heavy, loads of feel through it. You can just get it right. Brakes also have lovely feel. Just roll the car in, power out, and it's lovely. Got something up ahead here. So yeah, I'm just very lucky to have this car. I was lucky that I found such a good one, and I've just been so happy with the way that it's fitted in. My only slight gripe is the fact this driver's window doesn't work at all. So it means that it's currently held up with sellotape, and when someone comes up to speak to me, I have to open my door, which is a bit disconcerting for them. But it's fine. You forget about it, to be honest. This is a lovely car. It's everything I'd hoped it would be and more. It does make me want to own an older car, even older than this, because in terms of build quality, the noise the door makes when you shut it, it does this to go down the hill. It really quite aggressively holds the gear, or change down. And I'm not, in terms of how old the gearbox is, I don't really want it to keep doing that. I don't think that's probably the best thing to be doing 50 miles an hour and slam itself into third gear to slow me down the hill. I can manage that, and I can do that myself with the manual option if I need to. But yeah, it's a lovely car. It really is. And E39s in general, they're very, very cheap at the moment. It's bizarre. If you go onto the forums, there's a chap selling his E39 M Sport. I think that was a 530D or something. 97,000 miles, one owner, in reasonable condition, no rust. And then left it in manual now. It's just there you go. That's all you need. I like the fact you've got an MPG monitor down here as well. That's handy. And you know, he was asking people what they thought it was worth, and they were saying £2,000 max. And you think you get a really, really lovely car, well-built car. And if you get one that's been looked after, a reliable car compared to modern car standards, and you know, you're paying next to nothing for it. You're paying less than a deposit for a Peugeot 208. You know, it's staggering really what value these cars present in terms of their build quality. They last for a sort of good era, I'd say. The 2000s weren't a great time for cars. I mean, a lot of people argue they were peak cars, they're making V10 saloon cars and that sort of thing, but build quality had already dropped. And if you look at it from a build quality and sort of the soul within cars point of view, that was lost in the 80s, totally lost. The last sort of great cars were the Mercedes W123 era, the BMW E12s. You could argue E30. But you know, when they stopped making lovely switchgear out of metal and that sort of thing, the craftsmanship of cars began to wane. And this car, fortunately, keeps the essence of that slightly. Even the fact that you have to really slam the doors shut because the locking mechanisms are so beefy. But here's what I mean: when you're doing 60 miles an hour, we don't need to slow down for any of these corners. Really, it just floats around them, no problem. You could tell it was designed by genius engineers. They had to redesign the rear suspension on this car to allow for a bigger boot opening. So there's next to no intrusion from the wheel arches in the boot of this car. then also got double wishbone front suspension, sorry, double control arm front suspension, which just means that the ride is so composed. And this engine as well, it's lovely. It's lovely. It's brilliant. And the option that you can baby it and get decent MPG as well, I think is excellent. So yeah, that is sort of the first drive of the first introduction of driving the E39 on the channel. Oh, sorry about that. And I think you'll agree, it's a lovely car. I've got very lucky with this car so far. It's been sort of passed on to me in very, very good condition. It's something that I want to keep going. The Volvo hasn't yet sold, and I'll make a separate video on that. There's a reason for that. We haven't really pushed it too much in terms of our car needs at the moment. But yeah, the Volvo's still on the scene at the moment. It won't be forever, but at the moment it is. And yeah, I'm just enjoying this car for what it is. The fact that you can get 600 miles to a tank means you can take it anywhere. It's just a lovely car. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll include a link to the Blue Bus system as well, so you can Bluetooth your car. And yeah, I'll see you next video. Cheers.